welcome to Unreligiously. My name is Lauren, and today I'm going to be reacting to Paul and Morgan's most recent video, which is titled Our Biggest YouTube Regret. I'm going to make a few predictions here, which is first of all, that none of their regrets are real regrets because Paul and Morgan have been clickbaiting so heavily lately. The things that I want to hear about from them are, first of all, them publicizing all of their emotional moments on YouTube. The second thing being Morgan's health concerns and the lack of help that she's been receiving. And also if there's any updates on that. Not that we're owed any of Morgan's private health information, but they did publicize the possible vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is very serious. And so if they did feel comfortable sharing an update on that, I would love to get an update on that. There are a lot of people that are worried about Morgan, myself included. The third thing that I would love to hear them list as a regret is some of the work that's been put on Morgan in general when it comes to YouTube. The fact that she's been asked to take on even more recording responsibilities while she's sick. I kind of doubt that these things are going to get covered. I haven't actually watched the video yet, and so we're going to be reacting to this live today together. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, but let's just jump right into it and I'll let Paul and Morgan start talking.
Man, it feels really good to be back with you all. Morgan, what the heck have we been doing? Why haven't we posted more recently? Can we please start posting with more regularity?
I'm gonna say yes, but...
No, say yes. Say yes.
We're gonna do our best, guys.
Even just simple vlogs. I really want to. Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Guys, it was actually on my mind, just like, I was thinking about our YouTube channel, and I maybe saw a comment that triggered this, but I was like, man, as much as some of these, a lot of the comments we get are absolute trash, this one had some validity to it, and it caused me to reflect.
So that for me is not how I'd like to see them start. It feels like Morgan already is kind of showing that she's exhausted. She's like, yeah, we're gonna try to do more vlogs, because the vlogs, you guys, are being done by Morgan. They're Morgan's daily vlogs, or vlogs as being a mother and taking care of her health. And so it's on her to do it. And she, I believe, has even started editing them, which Paul used to be the sole editor of these videos, because Paul, since the beginning, has been the only one that wants to do this YouTube channel in the first place. So I'm not loving the way that they're starting out, but I would agree that personally, just because I'm worried and it's a parasocial relationship, don't take after me, but I would love to hear an update because I'm genuinely worried a little bit when they don't post for a few weeks. I'm like, is she okay? Is she alive? I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling when it comes to Morgan recently. But again, there's like this fine line because it's, you know, it's the internet and she shouldn't have to share anything that she doesn't want to either.
On a YouTube regret that is absolutely genuine when I think back on our videos. So I think, if I may...
See, we do listen to you guys. Even the haters sometimes.
Like, we always want to be listening, even.
Not that person who made this comment is a hater.
I don't know. But, yeah, we always want to be listening. So I think here's what happened, and then I'll tell you exactly what the regret is. Early in our YouTube, Morgan, we would make videos. There was one within our first year.
I will say that that is some pretty big growth for them if they're being honest, because in the past, they've had a really hard time with the negative comments, myself included. It's hard to like see negative comments and know what to give time to and what not to give time to. And I think, you know, Morgan and Paul, at this point, they're receiving basically the same feedback from everyone. And so it should be a little bit easier for them to sift through what's kind of valid and what's not. But in the past, they've kind of just taken it as an attack of their marriage, maybe even a spiritual attack. They're like, if you're not friends of ours, we're not listening. I do agree to some extent on that. Like, if I'm getting hundreds of negative comments, I can't mentally like read through every single one of those and take them all with the same degree of importance as like if my mom or my partner told me something. And so it can just be hard. It's hard to conceptualize kind of being on the internet. Again, I think the feedback that Morgan and Paul are getting is more about like emotional abuse and about making sure that she's being supported during this time and being concerned about her health. I don't think that they're receiving a lot of unbased and like randomized feedback. I think they're kind of getting legitimate feedback on the same thing. People in the comments, if you go look on their videos, people in the comments are saying, we're not saying this as haters, we're saying this because we genuinely are worried and we genuinely care. But this is progress from them to say that they are giving it any time at all, because in the past they wouldn't have.
On YouTube, where we kind of got like in an argument mid-video, and then we kept filming, and then we like talked about it, you know, we were just arguing about this, and it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Frankly. Is that fair to say it was uncomfortable?
Yes. Some people loved it, some people hated it.
I think we titled it What Marriage is Really Like or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we would make videos, and sometimes we would just leave in arguments, or we would be very upfront with you guys about like the challenges we were facing in marriage. And I think what quickly happened was, because that was unusual to see on YouTube, we started garnering like a following of people that didn't like our content, and so they would even maybe make videos about us, and they would say how bad our marriage was, or like marriage. I'm
just gonna pause it there and say, I think that people's issue isn't that they're being like raw and real and sharing their real marital concerns with people. The issue is that they're filming it in the heat of the moment, and that becomes unhelpful. It's like when people will film certain like mental health crash outs and post it to be like for mental health awareness. And in some, I'm not saying in every situation that's wrong, but okay, like if I just posted a video of me like crying about my religious experience, would that actually help you guys? And is that actually vulnerability, or is that just a lack of emotional boundaries? Do you know what I'm saying? I think that me taking the time to process my feelings and then presenting it in the way that I truly feel, in an honest way, making sure that the words are what I want to express to you guys, I feel like that's way more vulnerable for me than just posting like a crash out moment. I think there's a difference between trying to reflect on something and be honest and vulnerable and thoughtful in how you present something, and then just kind of trying to monetize your own like emotional trauma or your own like emotional hardship, if that makes sense. I think that's the bigger problem, because Morgan doesn't really seem like a willing participant. It doesn't really feel like Morgan wants to do these videos. She said multiple times in these moments that she doesn't want to be filming, and then Paul will be like, well, later on she agreed to let me post it. And it's like, well, okay, but in the moment she didn't want you to be filming, and that was a really vulnerable moment, and you still kept the camera rolling, and that feels really unhealthy. And like, how could she normally process that when you have a camera shoved in her face? So I don't know. I think I would just encourage them, not that they're ever going to watch my videos, but I would just encourage them to ask themselves what vulnerability is to them. I don't think that vulnerability means oversharing. I don't think that vulnerability means exposing yourself in the most extreme way possible. I think that vulnerability takes thought and intention. Not always, right? Like, this is obviously subjective, and I'm specifically talking about religious experiences or putting your emotional experiences out on the internet, but that's just kind of where I'm coming from, and I think that they're not understanding that difference. If they sat down and had a thoughtful conversation about the hard times in their relationship and how they've grown and what they've learned and what they think other people could take from it, I wouldn't really have an issue with that. It's just when Morgan is crying on the floor and you are still putting the camera in her face, that feels a little bit different. That doesn't feel like we're witnessing vulnerability. It feels like we're witnessing emotional abuse.
I remember the videos like, marriage is not supposed to be hard. These were the response videos. Literally, they would say stuff like that, like, if your marriage is hard, like Paul and Morgan's, your marriage is terrible, and get out of that marriage, and all that type of stuff. They would have these really strong responses to us just being vulnerable, that, hey, like in our first year, 2 years of marriage, it's hard. So they would make those videos. And now here's what I'm getting to, my biggest YouTube regret.
No one is saying that if marriage is hard, that it's terrible, but I do think they're saying if it's hard like Paul and Morgan's, that could be a red flag. That is valid because of the things that we've already talked about, them trying to publicize their marriage online, Paul forcing a camera in her face during her most vulnerable moments, Morgan getting diagnosed or potentially diagnosed with a very, very scary and life-altering diagnosis, and Paul not seemingly not really stepping up to help her, and her still being left to do all of the childcare when she's not even supposed to be lifting her kids. It's just concerning. These are things that are concerning. When you look at a marriage, a healthy marriage, they're people that you need to be able to rely on in times of sickness and in health, and that's not exactly what we see here. Even with Morgan's mental health concerns, it seems like Paul doesn't really try to empathize very much with her. And so that's what people are talking about. They're not just saying that marriage should never be hard. I think that every adult who's ever been in a significant, longer term, over a year relationship, they all know that relationships are going to have ups and downs. Sometimes are going to be easier, sometimes are going to be harder. People understand what life looks like. It's not like secular people watch their videos and just think, well, if you ever have any hardship, then throw in the towel. No, people know that marriage is a commitment, and people do want to fight for their marriages, and they know that marriage can be hard, but there are certain ways that it's okay for it to be hard, and there are certain ways where it's not okay for it to be hard. It's not okay for you to be physically abused. It's not okay for you to be emotionally abused, spiritually abused. It's not okay for you to be sick and your partner not to step up when they have every ability to do so.
By the way, we have two regrets that we're going to be sharing. Morgan brought another one up that I think is accurate as well. But this first one, my biggest YouTube regret is that in seeing those people making those videos, I think mine at least, and me as the head of this home, it was kind of trickled down to both of us, and our response to that was almost to double down and put our foot down and be like, okay, if they're saying that about our marriage and saying that marriage is supposed to be easy, we're going to preach that no, you need to expect marriage to be really hard early in your marriage.
I don't think that was a conscious thing, maybe. It wasn't necessarily a conscious thing for me, but I do agree that we definitely made a lot of videos talking about our marriage and from our perspective, and how, our first couple of years of marriage were really hard, and kind of put that on everyone else rather than just making it super clear of this is our marriage.
I don't think that you should be telling young people that marriage is supposed to be hard and that you should expect it to be hard. I think that you can expect, maybe for younger, if you're Christians and you're younger and you've never lived with roommates before, you're moving straight from your parents' house into a unit with your spouse, you could definitely say, expect to have a little bit of growing pains. Living with someone else can, it can be hard to learn who's cleaning on what days. It's hard to get things on the same page, and you actually might not really be compatible in a lot of ways if you haven't lived together before marriage. That's not to say that you need to live together before marriage, but I think if you are talking to younger Christian couples, that you could specifically say those things and maybe say, hey, here's a checklist of questions about what does your normal cleaning look like in your life, and see what are they currently doing. If they're living at home, maybe they literally haven't vacuumed in 6 years, and adding that into their routine is actually going to be, going to take some time for them. Or maybe they literally don't know how to load a dishwasher. Maybe they've lived with roommates and they're super good at cleaning, and it's they're fully ready to move in with someone. I feel like they could be offering legitimate things to their Christian audience. This is what could help you. This is what you could expect. But what they actually show is what I qualify as being potentially spiritual or emotional abuse. I think it's okay if early marriage is hard because you guys have differences on cleaning, or you have differences on I don't know, you guys like to sleep with different amounts of light at night or something. You have to make these accommodations for each other, right? And I think that's normal, that's fair. Maybe they need to learn to be more sensitive to your emotions. Maybe they haven't seen you when you're super, super tired, and so they're kind of learning that still. All of that is normal. But what I don't think is normal is your partner filming you when you're having a breakdown. What I don't think is normal is your partner saying that they're the leader of the house and then making decisions that are only good for them and not good for the rest of the members of the house. What I don't think is normal is pimping out your partner's story of having sex before marriage on the internet. So there are these lines, and I think they're trying to blur the lines to make it sound like it's confusing, or they don't know why people are upset with them. And that's a common criticism that I have of them in all of my videos about Paul and Morgan. It's that Paul directly fails to understand or intentionally misunderstands what the feedback is. No one is coming against them because marriage is hard and because they're saying that marriage is hard. That's just honestly not where people are coming from.
And it's been really hard, but you might get married and have like the easiest marriage ever for the first 5 years, and then your 6th year might be really hard. Who knows? But yeah, we definitely did a lot of that.
Yeah, I think that, again, it wasn't intentional, and maybe that wasn't like the entirety of it. I just think looking back, when I think about videos like maybe we would respond to people that came at us, or just videos in general talking about marriage, we overemphasized that marriage is going to be really hard.
Yeah.
Because like you said, our first couple years of marriage, and praise the Lord, like it's gotten a lot easier. I think it's fair to say like our marriage has gotten a lot easier, but our first couple years were really hard. And thinking back, like I think that we, and I'll even just say me, I'm just a hard person. And I think there are people that go into marriage, and I almost think I saw marriage as like, if you're married, if you're over here saying that marriage, especially in the early years, is easy, then there's something wrong. Like you guys aren't really going deep and having the deep conversations, and you're just trying to like sugarcoat everything and sweeping potentially big issues under the rug because you don't want to have arguments because you feel like that's a red flag, so you sweep it under the rug and it's going to come back to bite you. I kind of had that thinking, when in reality I really do think there are two people that can go into a marriage maybe that love the Lord, or even not, but let's just say like
I think the idea for most people is that you have these deep conversations prior to marriage so that you don't have super, super hard years of marriage that you're fighting to overcome. Like, you know what you're getting into, you know all of the deep answers to those questions, and you've dated that person long enough to see them in all types of situations. You know how they handle stress. How do they behave when they're angry? How do they behave when you genuinely make a mistake or you genuinely mess up and hurt their feelings? Because you will, right? At some point. How do they behave when you mess up? How do they behave when they mess up? Do they know how to apologize? If you don't date someone for very long, or you don't, I don't think you have to live with people before marriage, right? But like, if you don't spend a significant amount of time with that person, or ever travel with that person, or ever see that person when they're super, super tired, or have to wake up in the middle of the night to help someone, you just really don't know. You just really don't know.
Love the Lord, and they just have personalities that fit, not better, because there's something beautiful about having different personalities that learn to sharpen each other and work together, but personalities that just doesn't have the friction early on, and that's a blessing. Forever. And it's a blessing, and they don't have big arguments in their early years of marriage, and maybe forever. Is just really smooth and not very hard almost. Is that fair to say?
I think that those marriages probably do exist, but I do think that all marriages, like, at some point in time, you will, whether it's when kids show up, whether it's when hard times hit and finances are just terrible, or, whatever, like, you will probably at some point go through a hard season in your marriage. That doesn't necessarily mean that, like, you're fighting with your spouse all the time or you hate them all of a sudden, but it's just like, it's harder than it was. And let me encourage you, like, it can get even better than what it was.
All right, I just want to pause it there and say, if you didn't grow up in the evangelical Christian church, this idea that you might sharpen each other goes hand in hand with marriage. So they say that marriage is not meant to make you happy, marriage is meant to make you holy, and that those difficulties are really God sharpening you guys, using each other to sharpen one another and to become better people. And so if you get into a marriage where you are sharpening each other more often than another marriage, that just means that you needed that and that you are making each other more holy. And I think that that can really normalize negative dynamics in relationships and normalize emotional abuse, spiritual abuse. Like we've talked about in Paul and Morgan's case, it can just keep people in negative marriages because they believe that the hard time is God doing a work in them, which I don't think is probably the correct way to view difficulties interpersonally.
Before it was hard, like, if you're willing to push through those harder times. So yeah, but yeah, I agree. Paul and I both, our personalities we have a lot of similarities and then drastic differences. and learning how to make these differences work beautifully together and sync with each other has taken years. And learning how to come one another's way has taken years and lots of prayer. But I think that honestly, whoever we married, like, it probably would have been pretty stinking hard. That's what, I don't, maybe not, but no, probably. We might have married someone that was like easier going and less stubborn, but we're both like really stubborn, both of us.
So I don't.
So that really.
Right. So I don't think it was at all a lie or a facade when we were sharing how difficult our early years were, because they
No,
were.
definitely not.
But where it went too far.
Not a lie.
Right. But where it went too far is trying to kind of just cast that on, you need to expect this, and if it's not if it's too easy for you, then something's maybe off.
Well, and if we're being like really honest, in our personal lives during that time, like our closest.
That laugh felt like traumatic to me. She's like, took years. I don't want to just judge their marriage, but just based on some of the recent videos they've made about their marriage, I mean, I need to repent. That video you guys should go check out. It's actually the video that inspired this entire channel. It's what made me be like, okay, I have to like say something into the void about this, because it just feels like she is being spiritually abused so clearly. That was not that long ago. That was like 6 months ago. My channel isn't that old. And so I don't know. I don't know that I agree that they've like completely worked through it, but obviously I'm not in their marriage. It just to me feels like the content, at least, of their marriage has gotten more concerning over time. It hasn't gotten less concerning to me.
Friends, like all of our closest friends, we would ask them like, so how's marriage? And they were like, it's so good. We're having so much fun. We love you. Like we all got married around similar times, or we're a few years into marriage. And like we would hear that, and then we would come and be like, what's wrong with us?
Well, not necessarily. To me, it was kind of the same concept as when we'd see the videos about our marriage, where we would almost get a little bit like,
we'd either be like, what's wrong with us? Or, okay, they're just sweeping things under the rug. And they won't talk about this stuff, and we will. And so, yeah, it was not great either way.
It's not great to assume that about somebody.
No. But, so I think
even though some of them, I think, were sweeping stuff under the rug.
Come to find out, some of them were. But they've addressed it now.
So anyway,
But I think that we put that on our viewers as well. Of like, we want some people to tell us that they're having a hard time in marriage too.
Yeah. So we just pray for you guys that like whatever comes your way, it doesn't mean it's a red flag. If there's challenging years, because maybe personality-wise, you guys both have a lot of growth and ironing out, compromise, all that stuff, it's not a red flag. And it's also not a red flag if personality wise it's just smooth.
Yeah, I am such a far better person because of the beginning years of our marriage, and so is Paul, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So if you're in those first few years of marriage, and they are,
I personally have not gone through anything like what Morgan has gone through with Paul, except for in my one relationship that I would qualify as being of the abusive vibe. My current relationship, there are no similarities between Paul and Morgan. I don't know that it isn't people talking about it. I just think that I shouldn't say most people, but I think in a healthy relationship, the hard things that come up, if your relationship is good, you tackle them together, or it's such like a far and few between thing that you really don't need to talk to other people about it, because it's just like a small blip in a much broader, healthier, better relationship.
Hard.
Yeah.
Hang in there. It gets better. Push.
Marrying me has made you like such a better person. It is like truly amazing. And yeah, sorry, I cut you off. You were about to say push through it.
But I'm so patient, so it's fine.
You've become so patient. It's beautiful. It's truly beautiful. Morgan, share the number 2.
All right, number 2. We've talked about this before. I think
whatever comes your way, it doesn't mean it's a red flag. What? Yes, that's not true, you guys. There are so many things that could come your way that could be red flags.
We've made a whole video on it, but I figured we'd just throw it back in here because we're talking about YouTube regrets. And I would say a big YouTube regret that we have had is how we, early on, from several years of our YouTube channel, in topics that we would talk about, we came across very confident and very like black and white, and it's not necessarily that we thought that way of like, yeah, this is the right way. It's just like that's how we came across, when in reality, like if you were to sit down at a table with us and talk face to face, like we would probably be more open to, or be more like gray in areas or whatever.
God is gray?
But
God's not gray.
God is not gray.
You just mean like we wouldn't be so like this is how it.
Yeah. We
this is
wouldn't
the
come
answer,
across that
and
way.
you have to see it this way, or you're wrong.
Yes, but we did come across that way in videos, and so I regret that. I wish that we had been more like, guys, like we're still figuring it out too. We don't have all the answers. And so we did pivot from that for a while now, for years now, of like really trying to be more aware of how we're coming across and making it clear of like, this is what we think, this is how we interpret the Word of God. Take it and go to the Lord.
This is such a tricky one because like the Bible is clear on a number of things, like a lot of things, and it kind of goes back to our other.
I don't think that that's necessarily true. They did a series on their channel called like A Day With, and it would be different deconstructed Christians, and the idea was for them to find more middle ground and have these open conversations. They were not open-minded during those conversations with people. They were pretty judgmental, in my opinion, and it sometimes would like get very uncomfortable and awkward when people would share where they were at. Especially with Girl Defined, when they talked about their deconstruction, they acted, in my opinion, very offensive towards them and were very disrespectful. And so I don't know that that's really true. I think maybe their opinions have changed a little bit religiously since they started their channel. They maybe regret not acting like it was more open so that it doesn't seem like they're changing opinions. I don't personally have a problem with people changing opinions. I think that's just part of growth and existing for more time. So I don't really have an issue with that, but I think that's probably what their problem is, because they're really not open-minded. I just don't see that growth from them.
When we see maybe other channels that we feel like we're taking what the Bible said and then turning that into a gray, nuanced, you can think differently.
Yeah.
And they would just sound so wishy-washy.
That's
and
true.
so it would make us be like, no, like we're going to stand firm. And then we would swing too heavy in the opposite direction where we were making our convictions about things that we don't see the Bible as being totally clear on, but maybe because of the way we were raised, or again, it's unfortunate, but it's almost like YouTube favors channels and people that just come down so black and white, and then they develop this audience that is also like, I love this because they're so black and white and that's how I think, and it can get toxic.
Yeah. On both sides.
On both sides, rather than having people that are like, here's what the Bible says, but on these issues, like, let's just grow, and through our growth and experiences and seeking.
It's clear to them with their specific worldview, but I don't think that it is clear, and that's the problem. A lot of variation among Christians about what they believe on specific topics, particularly social topics. And when they present it like this is just what the Bible says, I think that's where people get a little bit irritated or feel like they're doing a disservice, because the reality is that's not the only viewpoint or interpretation that is respected out there. And they do tend to be a little more legalistic, fundamentalist. And so I think that is where they run into problems personally.
Lord, we may fall in slightly different places.
Yeah.
And I can think of a few videos where we did come across rather smug.
Sad. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, rather smug in issues that did not need to be treated that way.
Yeah. It is all a growing process, and with YouTube, you're live in the growth process, like bringing people along. So, have grace for some content creators out there, but also don't be afraid to call some out. But it takes guts to just get out there online and share thoughts and stuff, and no one's gonna do it perfectly.
No one is.
And
obviously, I don't think it's YouTube favors controversial opinions. I think it's that controversial opinions get more watch time, controversial opinions get more, reposts, they get more videos made responding to them, they get more comments and engagement because people are upset. So I think that's why, if you're saying something that everybody already knows and thinks, you're probably not going to get very far. And that's something that I run into with my channel. You know, my views are pretty middle of the road and accept everyone. And so I do fight against that. Like, I don't have punchy views that are necessarily going to like upset people. I think that we have the opportunity for discourse, but I'm also not coming on here and shaming anyone specific or saying that any religion is evil or anything like that. Whereas Paul and Morgan do have opinions like you're involving yourself with demonic warfare if you do XYZ, and it's like, okay, I don't know that I agree with that.
I would rather encourage someone to be bold and speak biblical truth than to not. But yeah, you got to figure it out and be willing to humble yourself occasionally and repent.
Yeah, it's true. I heard someone today saying like, we as just a culture now are so like averse to taking risks, so we just won't do it. And it's like, I look back, and even though we made some mistakes and we have these 2 regrets, like, we took risks.
This doesn't really sound like they're sorry to me or that they regret it. It seems like they just like they still stand by everything that they said. They just think that their presentation could have received less backlash. Like, they don't really disagree with it. They're just still learning how to speak on the internet. And I don't know if I really count that as like I guess it's a regret, but I was kind of hoping that these regrets would be more like things that they felt bad about, not that they just strategically felt could have been handled differently.
Yeah.
And we put ourselves out there for years, and now we can hop on and say we didn't do this perfectly. But a lot of things we're very happy that we have accomplished. And I hope we still have some really good days ahead of us, honestly. Again, like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, what in the world? Why have we not posted?
Kids, man.
And it is a different season of life, but we should still be able to spit out videos with some regularity. I'm ready to keep going.
Great.
YouTube, you're going to get sick of seeing us again.
Okay, well.
We can make another regrets video.
Again, it feels like he's kind of trying to say Morgan needs to be doing more, because Paul has made comments in the last few videos that they posted that she's been picking up more and doing more vlogging because he's so fixated on pickleball. But Morgan is still raising their 2 sons and dealing with these really serious health concerns. And so I don't know that it really is realistic for her to also pick up vlogging and editing and doing all of this new stuff, especially when it's emotionally taxing for her. She doesn't like it. She said that time and time again. She does not like to film. I would think that the added stress, the potential negative feedback that she's getting, all of that is stuff that they would kind of want to avoid during this time. So I hope that I'm misreading it here, and that while Paul is saying that they need to vlog more, that he really is committing for himself to do more, and that it's not getting put on Morgan at the end of the day.
Yeah, we stopped taking care of our kids.
Okay.
Because we went back onto YouTube.
We're going all in.
I'm gonna let that one go. But given the other religious influencer parenting concerns, I don't love that joke. But I know that they are, I shouldn't say I know. I feel that they are joking here. I just think it's distasteful, so I'm gonna let it go.
We'll see more of us. We're not going all in. We did 9 years of that.
We're balancing it now with other things. And is it fair to say we may have a big announcement coming up in the future?
No, it is not fair to say that.
I'm glad that she said that, because my mind immediately was like, oh my god, if he got her fucking pregnant right after all these health problems, I'm gonna lose my mind. But congratulations. But I'm glad that they're gonna take some time.
I'm not pregnant, first of all. That's not the big
That's
announcement.
not
There's
it.
no big announcement. I'm going to have to edit this out.
No, just maybe. There might, maybe.
No, there's not.
Maybe. Who knows? No. Who knows? But all right, guys. Let us know your thoughts. If you've been with us, leave it in. Leave it in, because maybe there might be. Maybe. But who knows what it is. Comment, let us know if you've been with us. Comment, let us know how long you've been with us. How long you've been part of the P&M fam. And also, like, what are your thoughts on what we shared? Are you like, thanks for sharing?
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna end the video there, but I will give my final feedback. I've been watching Paul and Morgan since I was a Christian. That's why I know so much about them, and I would say I don't think that you guys are I think these regrets are about strategy for you, not about feeling like you made a mistake per se, like a moral mistake. I think that I would have liked to see more specifics. So, for example, when they talk about gender identity, talking about Demi Lovato, they're really like cruel actually in the way that they address that and handle that. In the way that they talk about pronouns or anything like that. I really do disagree with their approach there. I wish that they could have given some more specifics. That would have made me feel like they actually were sorry. Now I'm trying to make the distinction, like, when someone says that they regret something, I think that they're like apologetic about it, but I think they're maybe using the term regret not to mean that they're apologetic. But I don't think that they're sorry. I think that they've definitely continued on down this line of content. They have not made a lot of changes. Their marital issues that they're talking about, how they wish that they could have talked less about them. We're talking really, really recent content that they've been doing that with. How can you say that you regret that when you're still actively doing that, when you're still actively shoving a camera in Morgan's face? It just feels a little disingenuous to me, but let me know what you guys think. I also wish that they would take a moment to try to understand the criticism and feedback from people. And part of me thinks that, like, Paul does understand it, but he just has to act like it's about something else, because if they actually took a look at like what emotional or spiritual abuse is and looked at their marriage, then he might have to make some legitimate changes. They just kind of stay away from understanding what the real problem is, because then they won't have to address it. I would really like to see them actually address it and see how they are going to make changes if they are really sorry, but once again, I don't know that I believe that that really was their intent with this video anyway. All right, you guys, let me know what you think. Have you been watching them for a long time? Do you think when Paul is talking about making more content that he's talking about Morgan making that content, or if he's actually talking about picking up more of the slack himself and staying more consistent? Let me know what you guys think. I am definitely curious, and yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like this video if you made it this far. Hit share and copy link. You don't have to send it anywhere, I promise, but it helps way more than you think that it does. Subscribe or double check to make sure that you are subscribed if you're not already. And if you want to leave a comment but you don't know what to say to support, you can always leave a white dove or a bird in the comments below, because that is my logo and I will probably respond to you with a white heart. Thank you guys so much for watching once again if you made it this far, and I will see you guys in the next one.
God, I need you to speak to me and show me what to do.
Then he went away and hanged himself.
Okay.